You ever feel like you're just running on a different operating system than everybody else? Well, it's probably not about your age. It's about the era that wired your brain in the first place. Today, we're going to dive into why growing up in the 70s and 80s makes you fundamentally different and how it forged a mindset that just sees the world in a really unique way. Okay, here's the first test. Something breaks in your house. What's the very first thought that pops into your head before you even think about looking up a replacement online? It's probably, where are my tools, right? You just have this built-in assumption that you can probably take it apart and figure it out. That impulse, it's not an accident. It's practically programmed into you. Or how about this one? When someone says MTV, you don't immediately think of reality shows. Nope. Your mind goes straight back to the golden age, to the actual, music videos, the world premieres. It wasn't just background noise. It was a genuine cultural event, and it shaped pretty much everything. And finally, there's this very specific, very analog skill. No beeping sensors, no fancy 360-degree camera telling you what to do, just you, the mirrors, and this kind of gut feeling for where the curb is. If all three of these just hit home for you, well, congratulations, you are definitely wired differently. And now we're going to explore exactly how that happened. So first up, let's talk about something that pretty much defined that whole upbringing: radical independence. A lot of what was normal then would probably raise some eyebrows today, but back then, it was just the law of the neighborhood. It wasn't some special parenting philosophy. It was just how things were. And it built a huge part of who you are today. I mean, just look at this comparison. It tells you everything you need to know. The rule was simple. Be home before the streetlights come on. That was it. There was no digital leash, no way for anyone to track you or even call you. And here's the most important part. You weren't just given freedom. You were completely expected to know how to handle it. And that kind of freedom had some really direct results. If you got lost, well, you had to figure out how to get unlost. If a problem came up, you and your friends had to solve it. You were watching your younger siblings, you were making your own snacks, and you were definitely getting your hands dirty fixing your own bike chain. The lesson here wasn't exactly gentle. You learned, real fast, that life doesn't wait around for you. A lot of that self-reliance was born from something that feels almost in danger today, and that's the gift of boredom. So we're going to reframe this, not as some terrible problem you need to solve with a screen, but as the incredibly powerful creative force that it really was. So what did boredom actually do? It wasn't a void. It was a blank canvas. It was this mental space where, with absolutely nothing to entertain you, your brain had no choice but to start inventing its own entertainment. With no phone to scroll through, that empty time forced you to become resourceful in a way you just can't learn from watching a tutorial. I mean, just think about it for a second. The forts you built in the backyard, the insane, elaborate games you made up with your friends, using nothing more than, a few sticks and an old cardboard box. That wasn't just playing. That was your brain firing on all cylinders, creating stories, rules, and entire worlds from scratch. Honestly, that's a superpower. Okay, so from creativity, we move on to resilience. This is part 3, forged by failure. Because back in the 70s and 80s, failure wasn't something to be afraid of. It wasn't something your parents tried to protect you from. It was just a normal part of the day. And that simple difference shaped your entire view on facing challenges. You could basically break it down into this simple, powerful recipe. Step 1, you fall off your bike. It hurts. Step 2, nobody immediately comes running over to fix it for you. And so, step 3, you have to dust yourself off and get back on the bike yourself. You repeat that little loop over and over, and eventually, resilience stops being a choice. It becomes a reflex. It's just muscle memory. And what was the deep psychological lesson from all of this? What was the foundation it built? It was this. You learn that struggling and trying and just putting in the work was way more valuable than being comfortable all the time. That grit is probably why you have a certain calm when things start falling apart today. You've been there before, and you didn't have Google to bail you out. This brings us to our final part, and this is what makes this generation so incredibly unique. You are the analog-digital bridge. You have a foot planted firmly in 2 completely different worlds, and that gives you a type of advantage that no other generation can really claim. Just look at this timeline. It's kind of crazy when you see it laid out like this. You started with rotary phones and letters in the mail, then you mastered that awful dial-up modem screech, figured out the first web browsers, and then watched as the entire world basically moved into your pocket. This isn't just adapting, it's true cognitive flexibility. Your brain is essentially bilingual. It speaks both analog and digital. You didn't just show up after the revolution, you navigated it step by step. And because of that, you have a memory of what human connection was like before we were all constantly connected. You can actually remember having a conversation where you had someone's undivided attention. You remember what patience felt like, not as an annoyance, but just as the normal state of things while you waited for a friend to call you back. So here's the big takeaway. All of this dual experience, it isn't just nostalgia. It's not about saying the good old days were better. It's a form of wisdom. It's the ability to appreciate all the incredible efficiency of the digital world while also understanding the real value of the things that came before it. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. When you look back at all of it, the unsupervised play, the boredom, the scraped knees, the total lack of a digital safety net, was that world actually harder? Or was it just more honest? A more direct reflection of life that ended up preparing you for anything and ultimately made you exactly who you are today?